When William returned to the living room, he found Victoria frozen in place, clutching her phone as though it were the only thing keeping her steady. Her hands trembled faintly, and her face had turned ashen, drained of all color. Her lips were pressed tightly together, as if desperately searching for the right words to mend the shattered remains of their relationship. William's expression was cold and unwavering. "Are you considering leaving?" he asked with a chilling indifference that made Victoria flinch. Despite the flat tone, the weight of his words pressed heavily on the air between them. Victoria opened her mouth to respond, but her voice faltered under the weight of fear and regret. "William, please," she managed at last, her voice cracking. It was a desperate plea. "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I never should have let things go this far." But William's gaze hardened, unmoved by her apology. "Sorry," he said bitterly. "Apologies won't change anything now, Victoria. The damage is done. But don't worry, you'll face the consequences." Victoria's breath hitched. She stared at him, confusion and dread tightening her chest. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. Leaning in closer, William's expression became even colder. "I know everything," he said bluntly. "The affair, the deceit, the betrayal. But you didn't just hurt me, you left yourself wide open. And now I'm taking it all away." His words landed like a sledgehammer. "The house, the car, the money you wasted on your little adventures with Charles, it's all gone." Victoria's breath hitched again as panic rose inside her. "What did you do?" she whispered, barely able to form the words. "I made sure you'll never forget this," William said icily. "Your accounts are drained, your credit cards are maxed out, and the house is already in foreclosure." "Oh, and Charles?" "He'll be getting a call from HR tomorrow about his little policy violations." Victoria staggered backward, her legs weak beneath her. Her face drained of what little color remained as she struggled to comprehend what William was saying. "Please, William," she begged, tears filling her eyes. "Don't do this." "You should have thought about that before choosing him over me," he said, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "I gave you every opportunity to make this right, but you made your decision." Turning away, he added with brutal finality, "Now you'll live with the fallout." Victoria's legs gave out, and she collapsed onto the couch, her mind reeling. Her thoughts spiraled uncontrollably as she tried to make sense of the unraveling nightmare. Everything she had once taken for granted, her home, her financial security, her carefully crafted life, was slipping through her fingers like sand. There was no escape. William stood there for a moment, watching her with an unreadable expression. He felt no sympathy, no guilt. He had prepared himself for this confrontation, and now it was over. The betrayal, her choice to be with someone else, it was all behind him. He had made sure she would pay the price. "Leave," he said firmly, breaking the suffocating silence. "I'm done." Tears streamed down Victoria's face, but she couldn't move. The weight of his final words pressed down on her, immobilizing her completely. She had nowhere to go, no plan, no future. The man who had once loved her was gone, and with him the stability and security she had foolishly taken for granted. After a long, agonizing moment, William turned and walked away without a backward glance. He didn't need to. His decision was final. Later that night, the oppressive stillness of the now empty house was broken by the sharp buzz of Victoria's phone. With trembling hands, she opened the alert, and her heart sank. Her bank account balance was 0. Her savings had vanished without a trace. Frantically, she checked her other accounts, but they all told the same story. No money, no safety net. The following days brought a relentless cascade of consequences. The car was repossessed. The utilities were disconnected. The once vibrant home descended into darkness and silence, mirroring the emptiness that now filled Victoria's life. Desperate, she reached out to Charles, but her calls went unanswered. Her remaining friends, sensing the chaos surrounding her, distanced themselves. No one wanted to be dragged into the wreckage of her life. Alone and forsaken, Victoria was left to face the ruin of her choices. William, meanwhile, had vanished without a trace, seizing the opportunity to rebuild his life free from the weight of their broken marriage. It was a new life Victoria would never be a part of. As she sat in the cold, dark house, haunted by regret, Victoria realized the full gravity of what she had lost. Her betrayal had cost her everything: her home, her stability, and the love of the man who had once stood by her side. Now, all that remained was emptiness, a stark reminder of the choices that had shattered her world beyond repair.